Nephi makes the metal plates and starts to write down the history of his people. And it came to pass that the Lord told Nephi to make metal plates so that he could carve down on them the history of his people. And on the plates he made, he first wrote the record of his father Lehi and all that had happened in their travels in the wilderness, the many prophecies that Lehi had made, and then all the prophecies that Nephi himself had made. And when he first made these plates, he had not been commanded by God to make them, so he focused on writing down his father's record, the genealogy of his people, their journeying in the wilderness, and so on the first plates. And after he had made these plates, now these plates are Nephi's small plates, Nephi was commanded to write down the ministry of the Saviour, the prophecies, the plain and the precious parts of the gospel, and the teachings, and to keep them for the learning of his people, who would later one day own the land, and for the purposes of the Lord, which are only known unto the Lord. Ponder this. Nephi doesn't know why he's supposed to write them. His reason for writing them is just because he's been commanded to do so by the Lord. So he did write another record on the other plates. These are the larger plates that give a better account of the years and of the wars and the conflicts and the struggles and the destruction of his people. And he commanded his people that they should continue writing and handing down these plates through the generations from one prophet to another until the Lord commanded them to do something else. And he said that he would share how he had made these plates, and after that he would focus on only writing the things which he had been commanded by God to do, so that the things of God, the sacred things of God, would be kept for the knowledge of his people. And he said that anyway, he would not write anything on these plates unless they were sacred things, things that were relevant to God. And if he does accidentally do so, it is because of his mortal inabilities or his weaknesses, so he asks pardon for it. Nephi then starts prophesying about the death of Christ. He says that what is of much worth and value to some men, other people consider rubbish and stamp on and destroy. And then he talks about how Jesus, the very God of Israel, would be ignored and stamped on and destroyed by men. For according to the angel of God, he would come in 600 years from the time that Lehi left Jerusalem. And the world, because of their wickedness, would judge him to be unimportant and would hurt him and beat him, and he would bear all their suffering. They would spit upon him, and he would allow them to, because of the tremendous love and understanding that he has for the children of men. And Nephi says that the very God of our fathers, who led the Israelites out of Egypt, who saved them in the wilderness, the God of Abraham and Isaac and Jacob, gave himself up as a human to wicked humans to be tortured, crucified, killed, and buried in a tomb. Nephi warns of the prophecies of Zenos, where he spoke of 3 days of darkness that would come over the world after the death of the Messiah, and how the people, especially the people of the tribes of Israel, would notice it. And Nephi repeats the words of the prophet who said that the Lord would visit all his people in that day, some who were righteous and others who were wicked, and the wicked on earth would face his anger through storms and fires and earthquakes. And Zenos said that all these things would most definitely happen, and the earth would be torn apart by quakes, and people and leaders all over the world, kings, rulers, would be afraid that God was angry with them. And the ones who were in Jerusalem would be hunted and destroyed by all people from then on, because they had killed the God of Israel, ignoring all the signs of his power, glory, and of whom he really was. And because they had ignored him and had hated him and hurt the Holy One, they are doomed to wander and die and become a hated people in the world who are badly spoken of. Even then, when that day comes that they turn their hearts back to Christ, then he will remember the covenants that he had made with their fathers and forgive them and take them back. And then he will remember all the people who are of the house of Israel, who scattered all over the world and all the isles of the sea. And all the world will see the salvation of the Lord, said the prophet Zenos, and every nation and people will be blessed from it. And Nephi says that he has written these things down for his people so that he can encourage them to remember their Lord and Redeemer, the one they need to turn to. And so he says that he speaks to all the house of Israel who may be scattered anywhere, if they happen to read these words of his. For he knows that from the Spirit working in him, what will happen to the people in Jerusalem in the future. And he knows that he too would have perished if he had not seen what became of the people in Jerusalem and had stayed, or gone back, or gotten lost, or been killed by his brothers, if he had not known to listen to and follow the guidance of God. For God definitely showed the ancient prophets the things about their time and the future. He did show many of the prophets about things in our time, both Nephi's time and in our own dispensation today. And Nephi's telling his descendants that they need to know that these things are written on the plates of brass that God told Nephi and his brothers to get from Laman. And over time, Nephi says that he's taught his brethren, his family, these things, and he read many of the things to them that were written on the brass plates so that his people would know the doings and the workings of God in other lands with other people as well, so they could see how God worked and led and delivered his people. And Nephi read many things to them that were written in the books of Moses, but to truly help them believe and understand and follow their Redeemer, Nephi read to them from the books of Isaiah. For Nephi believed that all the scriptures had been handed over to his people for them to learn from, to be guided by, and for their own good. And this is why he spoke to his people, saying, "Listen to the words of the prophet, you people who are the descendants of the house of Israel, you who are part of a branch that has been broken off from the main tree. Listen to the words of the prophet that were written for all people of Israel. Understand them from the point of view of yourself, of your life, learning and believing that you and your family, who may have been broken off from all, can all hope to experience the blessings and the love and the salvation of God if you turn to Him."